morning, everyone. Welcome to your English language live class. Today we are going to start a new chapter, that is clauses. Okay. So before getting into the details of the chapter, I want you people to have a look at these sentences and observe. If we look at the first sentence, it says, "Then Jim lives in a house which is made of wood. Then I am sad because I lost my phone. He is eating. I like chess, but my brother likes hockey because he likes outdoor sports." So I want you people to find out the subject and finite verb in these sentences. Okay. So if you see the first sentence, you will see Rimjim is the subject and lives is a finite verb because it will change when we will change the tense or the number of the subject changes. All right. Now, if you see, look at this sentence here, and Jim lives in a house, you will see that this is making a complete sense, this part. Again, if we look at the second part, which is made of wood, here, which is the subject, is a non-finite verb, fine. So, in a sentence, number of clauses depend upon the number of, you can say, finite verbs present in a sentence. Okay. So if somebody asks you to find out the number of clauses in a sentence, you just have to look for the number of finite verbs in a sentence. Okay. Then again in the second sentence, I am sad because I lost my phone. Here also you will see I is the subject, am is the finite verb. Again, I is the subject and lost is the finite verb. In the third sentence, so here also in the second sentence, there are two clauses. In the first sentence also, there are two clauses. In the second sentence as well, there are two clauses as well. In the third sentence, if you see, he is eating. So he is the subject over here and is the finite verb in this case. Fine. So there's just one clause present in this. Okay. The third sentence, I like chess. I is the subject, like is the finite verb. My brother is the subject, likes is the finite verb. He is the subject and likes is the finite verb. So let me see who can tell me the number of clauses in this sentence. How many clauses are present in this sentence? Yes or no?
Ma'am, 3.
Very good. So there are 3 clauses in this sentence. Okay. So I hope this much is clear to everyone. Now we will move on to the next slide and see what is there. Now we will look at the definition of clauses. Okay. Now, a clause is a group of words. So the first important thing to know about clause is that it is a group of words which has subject and only one finite verb. So one clause will have only one finite verb. That is why I made you to observe the sentences which were given in the previous slide. Okay. So as many finite verbs, those many clauses in a sentence. Okay. So one clause will have only one finite verb which conveys some sense and which may or may not stand alone. So a clause may stand alone, a clause may make sense, or a clause may not make complete sense. Okay, it can be a dependent clause also, it can be independent clause also. All right, so this is the definition of a clause. Now when in the definition there is the word subject is there, so I want you people to reflect upon subject and object also, just a little revision. So subject is a noun or a pronoun which does something, like the cute little puppy is playing in the garden, so the puppy is doing some work in the garden. All right, playing in the garden. And what is an object? An object is a noun or pronoun having something done to it. Okay, an action is performed on the object, like Sam kicked the ball. Here Sam the subject because he is doing some work, he is kicking the ball, and what is being kicked? The ball is being kicked. Okay, so the work is being done upon this this noun, that is the ball. So here the ball will act as an object. And then there was another condition that a clause has a subject and a finite verb. So I want you people to go through the finite verbs also. What are finite verb? A finite verb is a form of a verb that does two things: shows agreement with a subject and is marked for tense. Okay, so in simple words, a finite verb is a verb which changes with the number of the subject and it shows the tense. Okay, when the tense will change, the finite verb will also change. Fine. If you will talk in the present scenario, suppose we take the example of is. So in present tense, it will in the sentence it will be is, but if we want to say the same sentence in the past tense, so is changes into was, right? So is a finite verb. Here you can look at the different examples. He lives in Germany. So here I have taken the example of live, the verb live. So he lives in Germany. They live in Germany. So you see both the sentences are in present tense, but here the change, if you have the change. So in the first sentence, he is the singular number. So we have used a singular verb. Fine. And in the second sentence, they is a plural number. So we have used a plural verb. Okay, so subject verb agreement. Then in the third sentence, Kritika lived in Germany during her childhood. So lived is showing the past tense. Fine. So this is how these are the three ways in which you can change. You can see the change in one verb, that is live. So we conclude that live is a finite because it is changing depending upon the number of the subject, and also it is changing because of the tense, with the tense. Fine. And in the fourth sentence, if you see, he was living in Germany. So when ing form of a verb is used, so it is a participle, isn't it? And what is a participle? Participle is a non-finite verb. So here, what is our finite verb? Was is our finite verb. Okay. Are you people able to make the difference? To get the difference? Still in the first three sentences, live was the finite verb. But as soon as we come to the fourth sentence, living, ing form of any verb is a non-finite verb. Okay, it is a participle. So in that case, your be verb becomes finite verb. Fine. Understood this much? Okay. So we will move ahead. Now, in the last class, that is in class 7th, you people also did phrases, okay? Because both of them are a group of words. So what is the difference between phrases and clauses? That also should be known to you. The basic or the major difference is that phrases do not have a subject and predicate, fine? And clauses must have subject and predicate. Okay, so this is the major and the most important difference between them. So if you look at this example, these examples on the screen, you will understand. Like fish swims in water. Okay. So if you will identify the subject and the verb, you will get to know which part of the sentence is clause and which part of the sentence is a phrase. So if I ask you to identify the subject and verb, so you will see fish is the subject, swims is the verb. This will be small s. Swims is the verb, finite verb. So we will understand, or we will mark it as clauses. So this is a clause, fine. And in the water, since there is no subject and no finite verb, so we will categorize it as phrases. Okay, so the things which are written in black bold, they are phrases in all the 4 sentences. And here on the right hand side, you can see the words which are written bold letters, they are clauses. All right. Again, she is sleeping. So you see, she is sleeping is being highlighted under clauses. Why? Because she is the subject and is the finite verb over here. And on the floor is phrase because there is no subject, neither any subject nor any finite verb. Similarly, the third and the fourth sentence also follow the same pattern. Okay, so who can explain me the third and the fourth examples? If you have understood first two examples, so who can explain it to me? The third and fourth one. Let me see. Only three of you? Okay, so yes, Anushka, go ahead and explain to me the third example.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in the phrases part, ma'am, over here, they will meet at a concert. At the concert is the phrase because it does not have a finite verb and neither does it have a subject and an object. As for clauses in the third part, it is given they will meet. Over here, they and ma'am, they and will is the finite verb. So they will meet is a clause. It also has a subject and a predicate.
Very good. Okay. Next, fourth one will be explained by Sanvi. Yes, Sanvi?
Ma'am, the fourth one, she is sketching on the wall. So, ma'am, she is sketching. She is the subject and is the finite verb. So it is a clause. On the wall doesn't have a subject nor the object and not a finite verb as well. So
See, all these phrases, they have the object. Okay, so you just on the floor is the object. Okay, so prepositional object, if you remember in the chapter preposition I taught you. Fine. So only you just have to look for subject. So it does not have any subject. Okay, Anushka, you also said object. So we are not supposed to look for object. So at the concert on the wall, both of them do not have any subject, nor have any finite form. So till there, you people were correct, but do not add object because object obviously is there. The concert and the wall, both of them are the object. All right, so I hope this thing is clear because you people are able to answer the questions also. So we'll move forward. Fine. So again, this is the graphical representation of what I just explained to you people. Okay, he failed because he did not work hard. This is our what do you say, sentence. All right. So now I told you that we analyze the sentence and find out how many clauses are present in a sentence. Fine. So if you look at this example, he failed because he did not work hard. So who can tell me how many clauses are there in this sentence? In this sentence. Okay. Yes, Abhineet. How many clauses are there?
Ma'am, two.
Okay,
Ma'am,
how
he
do you know
failed.
that?
Failed is a finite verb. It is showing past tense. And ma'am, did not. Ma'am, did here shows the tense.
Okay, so there are two finite verbs. Very good. Therefore, you could easily identify that there are two clauses. Fine, but these two clauses are of different nature. Okay, are of different types. So we will find out how. So if we look at the first clause, that is he failed. Till here is the first clause. Abhineet, do you agree with it? Yes. So he failed. This is our first clause. Now what is there? He is the subject as you can follow the arrow. Then failed is verb. What kind of verb? Finite verb. Always remember. Never say just verb. You always have to say finite verb. So if we say failed, okay, so this is making complete sense, isn't it? And it can stand alone as a sentence. If you say this sentence, then the other person will understand. He failed, that means somebody failed. Okay, so it is making a complete sentence. It not require any other thing to be joined with it in order to make a complete sense. Okay, so it can stand as a sentence alone. So if you remember the definition of a clause, it had what three keywords? One, subject. So we have done subject. Then finite. We also looked at the finite was, and the third one was that it may stand alone or it may not stand alone. Stand alone means making complete sentence on its own without requiring any other group of words, okay, to be joined with it. Fine. So this is the third part of the definition which we are looking at, that a clause may make complete sentence on its own. Now, And we also will look at the other part of the definition, which says that it may not make a complete sentence. How? When we will look at the other clause which is present in this sentence, and that is because he did not work hard. All right. So what do we see? He is the subject in this case, and did, as Abhineet very correctly told us, is a finite verb. So it also has a subject and a verb, conveys some sense but not complete sense. Okay, because he did not work hard, if you will say, then nobody will understand what you're saying. All right, so it is not making a complete sense, but yes, it is giving us some sort of meaning. It is not meaningless, but the thing is that it is not making complete sentence. Okay, complete sense. So it cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. So we have seen two clauses, one of which could stand alone. The previous one, he failed, and the second clause, it cannot stand alone. So there are two types of clauses. Okay, in this manner. So which can stand alone and which cannot stand alone, right? And a specific word has been associated for such type of clauses, which we will look at in the coming slide. So this is again the reiteration of the definition. That is, a clause is a group of words that has written a finite verb. It may or may not stand alone to form a complete sentence or to convey a complete thought. Okay, so we have seen the example. In the first example, it was making a complete sentence. In the second example, it wasn't. I mean, in the second same example, it wasn't. So a clause is a group of words that acts. So this is something new. A clause is a group of words that acts as a part of speech. That is, it acts as a noun, as an adjective, or an adverb, and conveys some. So clause plays the part of these part of speech. Fine. That is why we have different types of clause: noun clause, adjective clause, adverb clause, isn't it? Because they play the part of these parts of speech. So now we come to that where we will learn about types of clauses. So there are basically three types of clauses. One is principal clause or main clause. Second is subordinating clause or dependent clause. And the third is coordinating clause. Okay. So what are principal clauses? A principal clause has a finite verb with a subject and conveys complete sense. That is, it can stand on its own. Fine. So the first part of the clause, clause which was there in that sentence, he failed because he did not work hard. So can you now give the word, the type of clause he failed was? What type of he failed was? Yes, Yashi?
Principal clause.
Very good. It was principal clause because it could stand on its own. Fine. So the clause which can, for a group of words to be a clause, there should be all these conditions should be fulfilled. Okay. One is that what all conditions are there? Let me see how many of you have got it. Tell me all the conditions which need to be fulfilled for a group of words to be a clause. Only 2 students have understood. Yes. Okay, Umid. Yes, Umid, you can unmute yourself.
Ma'am, it should have a subject and a predicate and should convey complete sense or some sense.
Okay. You missed out one most important. All right, we'll go to someone else.
Ma'am, it should be a part of speech.
Okay. Yes, Vinayak. What did she miss?
Ma'am, a clause is a group of sentence which has its own
It
subject.
is not a group of sentence. Okay, it is a group of words.
Sorry, a group of verbs which has its own subject and can stand on its own. And
how will you count number of clauses in a sentence?
Sorry, ma'am.
How will you count number of clauses in a sentence? That people are missing.
Ma'am, by finite verbs.
Yes, so that is also important. No, That is an important part or an important condition. So very good. These children have told that there are three conditions. One is that it should have a subject. The second is finite verb. The third is it may stand its own or it may not. So the clauses which can stand on its own, on their own, they are known as principal clause. Okay, principal clause or main clause or independent clause. Fine. Independent clause. Why? Because they do not depend on any other part of the or any other group of words in order to make a complete sense. So there are three names for principal clauses. Okay. Does you want to ask something? Okay, you may lower your hand, child. So again, this is an example which will clarify the principal clause, the definition of principal clause. I enjoy watching movies. Clearly, you can see I is the subject, enjoy is the finite verb. It is making a complete sense. It can stand on its own. So it is an independent clause. Okay, or a main clause or a principal clause. So all three you should know. Now we come over to the second part of the clause, that is subordinate clause. As the name suggests, subordinate clause will have what? Subordinating conjunction. Fine. How many of you remember subordinating conjunctions? How many of you can tell me what are coordinating conjunctions? First of all, tell me that. And if you will know coordinating conjunction, then only you will be able to tell me about subordinating conjunction. Yes, Shubh.
Ma'am, coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so.
Yes, so FRAN-BOYS acronym is for coordinating conjunctions, and then the rest of the conjunctions are categorized as subordinate conjunctions. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So in the previous slide, I have something about subordinating conjunctions. Yes. So all such words which you can see over here, they are what? Subordinating conjunctions. Okay. Except for FRAN-BOYS, that is for, and, nor, but, then or, yet, and so. Except for these seven, what do you say, coordinating conjunctions, rest all the conjunctions are subordinating. Fine. And it joins two clauses. So this is of unequal rank. That means one will be a dependent clause, other will be an independent clause. So this is the main function of a subordinating conjunction. Okay. So now we will come over to our subordinating clause. So since subordinating clause is also a clause, so it should fulfill the criteria of being a clause. That is, it should have a finite verb and a subject, but does not convey complete sense on its own. So the clauses which are unable to convey complete sense, they are known as subordinating clauses or dependent clauses. Okay. So it can thus never be a sentence in itself and makes sense when it has a main clause. Fine. So whenever you'll find a subordinating clause, you will not be able to get a complete sense or the complete idea which it is trying to convey. And you will also find a main clause always preceding it or succeeding it. So there will be a main clause either in the beginning or towards the end of the sentence. See, here look at this example. Raman is wearing a shirt which looks nice. So here Raman is wearing a shirt. You will see that it is a main clause. Why? Because it has a subject, it has a finite verb, and it is making a complete sense. Fine. But when we look at this part of the sentence, which looks nice. So here, which is the subject, looks is the finite verb, but it does not make a complete sense. If you look at this sentence exclusively, okay, with not in this context, then you will not be able to understand what this group of words mean. Which looks nice does not have any sense, complete sense. So it will always require a main clause to make a complete sense. So which looks nice therefore becomes subordinating clause. Also, one more thing is that it is beginning with a subordinating conjunction, which is a subordinating conjunction also. Fine. So this is the case where main clause comes in the beginning of the sentence. Main clause precedes the subordinate clause. In the second sentence, you will see main clause succeeding subordinating clause. Since it is raining, so here it is beginning with since, so it is a subordinating clause, and also it does not stand alone. It requires main clause to complete its sentence, to complete its sense. We cannot go out to play. So if we write only this sentence, we cannot go out to play, it will stand on its own. Therefore, it is a main clause. So main clause is succeeding the subordinating clause. So here I have shown both the ways in which main clause and subordinating clause appear in a sentence. So when the subordinating clause lies in the beginning, this is also a point to note that when a subordinating clause lies in the beginning of the sentence, we always have to separate using a comma. Right? So have you people understood this much? Okay. Yes. So now let me see who can explain this example. Although everything is written, but you have to explain it out to me. Have you understood whatever is written on the screen? Okay, only 2 of you have understood. All right, I'm giving you time to read and analyze and then raise your hand. Quickly, all of you are supposed to read. Yes, Juveria, you want to explain? Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. She meets the man here. She is the subject, and night verb is meet, and it is making complete sense. So it is an independent clause. And in the second part of the sentence, who had helped her, here it is starting with the subordinating conjunction who, and had is the finite verb, and it is not making complete sense. So it is a subordinating clause.
Okay, good. Yes, Yashvardhan, what do you have to say?
Good morning, teachers.
Good morning. Yashvardhan, you're not visible.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, now?
Yes, now you're visible. Yes, explain this
Ma'am,
example.
she is the subject, ma'am. She meet the ma'am. Ma'am, it makes complete sense, ma'am. And it can also stand alone. That is why it is an independent clause, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
Ma'am, the who helped the man is a dependent clause, as it also does not make complete sense, ma'am. So it is a subordinate clause.
Yes. And where is the subordinating conjunction in this sentence? In this clause? Who helped her?
Ma'am, who?
Yes, very good. So you people have understood this much. All right. Okay, we have now different kinds of subordinate clause, but we will do it tomorrow. We'll take this up later because then we won't be able to complete it in today's class. Fine. Let me see if I have exercises based on the whatever we have done or not. So here is an exercise in which you have to identify the main clause and subordinate clause in these sentences. Fine. So take your time very quickly, a minute's time. Solve all the 5 sentences and raise your hands. Yashvardhan, keep your video on and not supposed to switch it off. Fine, we'll start with Samrit. Yes, Samrit, the first one.
Ma'am, the banker need to know. Ma'am, this sentence can stand alone because here the subject is banker and need and to is the ma'am verb. Operative.
So need to is
Ma'am,
verb.
ma'am, no, ma'am, need to not. Ma'am, only two.
Only 2. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, and what they should do, ma'am. This is a subordinating clause.
How do you know that it is subordinating?
Ma'am, because it cannot stand alone.
Okay. So
Ma'am,
some of
and
the
also,
parts. Yes.
ma'am, also it has subordinating conjunction. Ma'am, who?
Okay.
Sorry, what?
Only one mistake you have made, Samrit, that is to is not a finite verb. To is the preposition. Need is the finite verb over. Okay. So this is the subject. This is the finite verb, and you have identified it as the main clause. That is correct. Then what they should do is subordinating clause, because it is starting with a subordinating conjunction and does not stand on its own. Fine. So that is correct. Next, as soon as the teacher entered the room, the students sat quietly. Yes, Bhumanyu.
Ma'am, as soon as the teacher entered the room is a subordinating clause because it has subordinating conjunction as soon as, and it cannot stand alone, whereas the student sat quietly is independent clause because it has both subject and finite verb and can stand alone.
Yes. So as soon as is not the subordinating conjunction, only as is the subordinating conjunction. Okay. So you are correct. This part in the room is your subordinating clause, and the student sat quietly is the main clause in this. Okay. And as you can observe that since subordinating clause is preceding the main clause, so we have placed a comma in order to separate both the clauses. Okay. Fine. The next one will be answered by yes, Abhineet.
Ma'am, this is the farmhouse, ma'am. Independent clause. Where they live, ma'am. Subordinating clause.
Yes. So explain also.
Ma'am, because this is the farmhouse, it makes complete sense and has a subject and a finite verb, that is, ma'am, and where they live has does not make complete sense but have a subject.
Yes. Okay.
And
good.
it starts with a subordinating clause. Clause, ma'am, conjunction.
Conjunction. Yes. Yes, Sarthak. Next one.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Wait here is a main clause. Until your parents come is a subordinating clause. As wait here can stand alone. Until your parents come, it is starting from a subordinating conjunction and cannot stand alone, and it is dependent clause. So it is a subordinating clause.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very smooth explanation. Good. Okay. Last one. Want to know whether the answer is correct. Anybody who has not got a chance to answer so far? All these children have answered. Woman, you have just answered. Okay, so I don't see any new face. Hira, you want to try? The last one. Were you not studying?
Ma'am, in the fifth sentence, ma'am, I want to know is the main clause, and because I here is the subject, and want is the verb, and whether the answer is correct is the subordinating clause. As ma'am, it is starting with the subordinating conjunction, that is whether, and
then where is the finite verb in this clause?
The finite verb is.
All right. So very good. All of you have given the correct answers, and all of you have given the correct explanation as well. So keep it up. Please remember this till your exams, because you tend to forget everything in your tests. Right? So thank you. We'll stop here.